Well, I guess around the same time that I started my own label and my own band in '87, I mean, we didn't expect to, you know, we were selling records to literally a handful of people that mostly centered around this club called Gilman Street. I think there was about maybe 50 or 100 of us involved at the beginning, and after a year or so, some of the new bands had started to get a following, so I thought, gee, maybe we could sell 1,000 records. You know, a couple of those bands have now gone on to sell, well, just on our little label, Run Out of My Bedroom, it's sold over 1 million, and in one case, Green Day, something like 20 million on another label. Right from the start, we got slagged off because they said, "Oh, you guys are just recycling all that '77 stuff." And I thought, well, yeah, kind of, but not exactly. It was kind of like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They started out by recycling black rhythm and blues from America. At first, they tried to slavishly copy it, and they put their own English white boy twist on it, and it became something far, far bigger than what they had originally copied. And that's very much what happened with bands like Green Day, who you could say, well, they sounded like sort of an amalgam of maybe the Buzzcocks and Stiff Little Fingers and the Beatles, or Operation Ivy, who were a straight blend of the Clash and the Specials. And yet both those bands, like many years later, went on to be far more successful, and in turn to launch the seeds of future generations. I kind of burned out on the whole scene and left my label in '97 because it had become a multi-million-dollar business, and I was not prepared to deal with the stresses of it. I just didn't cope. I kind of, in a way, almost ran away from it. And in the following years, I kind of withdrew from music and felt, well, geez, it's same thing. It's all dying now. It's become totally commercial path. You know, there's nothing happening anymore in punk. Then maybe towards the end of the '90s, beginning of the new century, I started talking to people like Jonnie here and to some of his compatriots, and especially around here in New York and on the East Coast. You know, they grew up listening to the records that I put out, and they got their own little scene going. And I kind of gradually get drawn into it, and I see the same things happening all over again. You know, most of you, maybe even, I assume most of you are probably pretty hip to things that happen musically, but I bet you a lot of you have never heard of any of the bands that Jonnie works with, but you will. I can pretty much guarantee it, because it's to me, it's like, I don't know, every 10 or 20 years it just goes, you know, it gets repollinated, replanted, and then here it comes again. Now, I don't know how long the name punk is going to last. That's really strange to me that it's lasted that long, but here we are. Yeah.
I think with just technology in general, where you have so many people these days who can pick up their just acoustic guitar, plug it into their Mac, and use GarageBand or any other small drum making program, and then they instantly are connected with their songs. Then they instantly post them on their MySpace, and anyone around the world can hear it. And also with that, on the other hand, is that with having so much music out there and easily accessible, influences, I think, are going to grow exponentially, and you're going to see within punk, and as well as any other form of music, you're just going to get a lot more collaboration. Because when you were starting a band, let's say, and you were 13, 10, 20, 30 years ago, you were limited to your parents' record collection, or the really cool guy in school who said, here's the stuff you have to listen to. So now you can go out to iTunes or even to a SoulSeek or a MySpace and find whatever you want to listen to and see, wow, you know what? That was an amazing bass part. How can I emulate that into what I'm doing on my own? And now I don't need another 2, 3, 4 people. I can do it on my own. So I think there's going to be a lot more innovation, and I think that's what's going to be really exciting. From the label point of view, there are a lot of bands that I feel are cookie cutter out there, and it's not a knock on them. That's what they want to do, and whatever I'm looking for is I'm looking for a band who takes the style but adds themselves to it. Adds a little piece of themselves, make it different enough that it's still the same genre, but that's how you get something great, instead of just copying the bands that have come before. It's kind of like we said, I mean, with Operation Ivy, you took two things and you put them together, but no one really had done that before, and that's what made them stand out. So that's what I think is going to be happening, or at least hopefully will be happening. But I think you have to constantly be thinking, and there's so much out there. And there are, no offense, there are more documentaries, there are more labels, there are more bands, there are more bloggers and writers, and you name it, that how do you differentiate yourself? How do you get someone to say, well, you know, I'm going to listen to this one instead of that one, or the other one? So I think it's the type of thing that you have to try to be as creative as possible, and really use as many of your resources that you have, if it's great artwork or if it's anything that can differentiate. And I'm not trying to attack this just from like a business point of view. I just mean, really, you've got to set yourself apart and show that you're worth the time instead of someone else. So I always try to think outside of the box. I think thinking within the box is dangerous because it's how Liz was saying. People saying, well, what are you doing, you know? Why didn't you work on someone's film? Why didn't you do a short first? Because, well, if you think that way, then it's going to take you X amount of time a lot longer instead of just saying, you know what, I can do it this way and it'll be great. Or if it's not great, it'll be good, and then the next one I do will be even better. And a big part of the label was, I started it 10 years ago, I was 18 years old, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I was never afraid to make a mistake. I welcome mistakes. I didn't welcome making the same mistake twice. Every mistake I made was a learning experience, and then from that, I knew I would never make that mistake again, and I was only better for it. So run with scissors as fast as you possibly can, I guess. So I think thinking within the box is not a very good thing to do. I think it's very limiting. I want to ask a question to the right side of the table, and I'm going to present it in a way that maybe it's just the way I've always thought about it. I always saw punk rock as a four-letter word in the bad way from the 70s and let's even say early 80s, and it was mainly because of dress. I would say, like we said, it was the quote-unquote outcasts of society who were dressing that way and going to these shows, and the music almost took a back seat, and it was more about your piercings and your mohawks and your plaid pants and being seen this way with just to be accepted within a group. And that's why I thought it to me, from just reading the history on it, it died 79 sort of and 80, and then what's happened throughout the years is the people who really care about the music for the music's sake is what's kept it going. And that's why I kind of feel that it's not the four-letter word that it used to be, and how Larry was saying how you encounter people who are quote-unquote clean cut, but they still love the music, and that's what's still the driving force. It's not the fashion. So I guess my question is, around those early years, was it more fashion, or was it more music-based, or was it a healthy balance of the two?
To me, it was both. Danny might have a different take. I mean, yeah, style, fashion was a lot more important in those days, and you did. I know I got. I mean, I was really into the clothes and style of it, and still got slagged off because my leather jacket wasn't beat up enough, and like, you know, where'd you come from, poser? You go back to the suburbs, you know, that kind of thing. Even though I've been wearing leather jackets since the 50s, but. The music was important too. It wasn't important that it be high quality in conventional terms, but it was important that it be cool and adventurous and exciting.